Hi, everybody. Welcome to FNS Wrestling Podcast, worst of 2022. Yes, it is end of February, late February, and we're just getting around to doing it, but I feel like 2022 is still in the rearview mirror. It's not completely out of sight yet, so we finally got time. It's me. I'm down in the basement. It's Jack. He's across the table.
How many days are in February this year?
I don't think it's a leap year, but I actually don't know for sure.
I was just curious. No, it's not.
It is not. So we are, it's a holiday here where we live. It's Family Day, so it's Monday.
Well, that only exists here.
Yeah, I think so. It's Canada, Ontario. Actually, I don't even know. I think it's all of Canada, I would assume, but let me check right now. Yes, the third Monday in February. Technically not a national, federally mandated holiday, it says. But we have it. So we finally found the time to get down here. It's just been really busy with you working and me working and coaching and all kinds of other stuff. So for this, I think we'll pretty much get right into it, right? Again, the same as best of. We've combined all the rosters because you don't really watch NXT because we used to do separate categories, right?
Because NXT's bad.
It may come up during this, right? And neither of us watch WWE too regularly other than pay-per-views. You kind of cherry pick highlights from weekly shows and stuff, and then if you tell me to watch something, I'll watch it, like the Cody and Sammy promo from this week and whatnot. But so I think each category directly corresponds with the best of the year.
You usually try to.
And then apparently I see a note on here that you have honorary awards. Should I read what it says there?
Oh, yeah.
Honorary awards just to be mean, speed round.
Oh, yeah, just to really tough it up.
So that won't be me. That will be all you.
I mean, you can chime in if you feel like
Yeah, I might have some thoughts. I honestly don't know what you're doing because I don't think it's on this document, is it?
No.
So
I purposely didn't put it on the
great.
document.
It'll be a surprise to me. So I think what we can do is maybe I'll give the category, you can give nominees, and then we can do picks.
Yeah.
Are we going to try and alternate? Because we get confused sometimes.
You want me to do my thing?
What's that?
Before we go into the actual one?
You want to go speed round first or after we're done?
I'll do it now.
Okay, go ahead so I can sit back. I should have brought coffee. Why didn't I?
In
okay.
Worst return, Karrion Kross, right?
Yep.
Least attractive, Toxic Attraction. Yeah.
Just for the irony of it?
Yep. Worst appearance change, I put a tie for Edge's haircut. Remember when he got that? Or Finn Balor's new pants.
What about Scripps? Whole new look?
Scripts, that works too.
I would chime in there, although he's disappeared.
That's true.
I think
saw
they
him
might
on
have
Level Up or something.
I think they might have realized that it was absolutely the worst
the
thing
Creativity Award goes to WWE for having the same flat stage for 90% of their shows this year, unless it's in a stadium.
Right.
Least likely for an MMA transition one, I guess.
Marina Shafir.
Karrion Kross.
Oh, yeah.
Rising Star of the Year, Dolph Ziggler, because he rose from NXT to main roster success.
He did. Finally.
Worst title reign of the year, Liv Morgan.
Worst what? Sorry, title run?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Best pay-per-view name, Day One.
Is that you're being sarcastic?
Yeah. Why is that? Okay. Gimmick change / push of the year. Madcap Moss and Butch. Get that one?
Yeah, they're both phenomenal.
Nickname of the year one, I guess.
Scripts?
Seth freaking Rollins.
Oh, you do hate that.
Gross. Name of the year. Just in general. I put a tie between Rip Fowler of Schism.
Yes, because I can't remember it no matter what.
Rip Fowler, Meechin, which I guess could also be a name change, Butch, or Valhalla, which is just, that's stupid. Team name of the year, I'd go Brawling Brutes or Banger Bros.
Yeah.
And finally, the worst tattooed female wrestler with green hair and a tank goes to Shotzi Blackheart.
You had to get her in here since she might not win any awards.
Oh, yeah.
Because she ran a lot of categories for you last year, right?
Yeah, she was a lot more prominent last year.
She was.
So
was it all main roster last year, or was she NXT still?
It was mostly NXT, I think.
Right. So, and that's why, because we were watching it.
And she was also tag champs with Ember Moon for a decent bit. Remember?
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move into the official awards. So our first category is going to be Worst Commentator.
Ooh.
Nominees?
Booker T, which I could, if we did this in 2017, I'd put him there too.
Yes.
Vic Joseph, JR, and Corey Graves, which is weird coming from you, from
Corey Graves used to be
ago.
Good and my favorite WWE commentator, but it's like they've gotten to him, right? He's now programmed to do things the WWE way.
I mean, you should hope he starts wrestling again, because maybe that'll turn out better.
And JR's just so old and crotchety and just bitter about everything, it seems. And Vic Joseph just doesn't call moves, right?
Yeah.
But anyways.
I didn't even care about that until you pointed it out.
Your pick. You can go first if you like for this one.
Very borrowing from yours as well as Booker T, because I didn't like him even when I was a child. And I definitely don't like him now. He's pretty short-lived for 2022. They didn't the commentary change doesn't feel that long ago.
No.
I haven't even heard of much either because I don't watch that crap show. But
when sometimes you're in the room when I'm watching it, so you
yeah.
get enough of hearing to know.
But he's still really bad every time I see him, and the memories live long.
Yes, you're right. He hasn't been around for much of 2022, but he also, it is Booker T is winning this for me.
And also, I know you said, but like Barrett was good. Like I really like.
Yeah, Barrett was completely fine. So this is a big downgrade. So NXT has taken steps to improve from the 2.0 era that was absolutely awful, but Booker on commentary, like you just said, is a big step back from Wade Barrett.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really make sense when he speaks. It becomes clear that he doesn't really watch much of the product, I don't think, beyond NXT.
Also, some of the things he says is just, they're weird.
And sometimes Vic Joseph will ask him a direct question or sort of lead him towards a specific topic, and he just completely misses it and leaves it sitting there. So I honestly don't think he adds anything. The only thing this year, or maybe it wasn't even this year, I don't know when it happened, but when Roxanne Perez won and he was super happy for her.
It was end of last year, technically.
So that was nice, but like as a week-to-week commentator, he's
heel, right?
He detracts from the show usually, but it's almost like he's not committed to any of it kind of thing because he's still got to root for Roxanne Perez, right? But anyways, he's the worst, so he wins easily.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty easily for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have an honorable mention. It was such a landslide. All right, so now this one was hard for me. It was the last one I actually filled in. I think today.
It was hard for me to think of more nominees. That's like, because like the term like non-wrestling performer, it's like it's so vague.
So it is worst non-wrestling performer. So that is not commentators and not in-ring performers.
Right. So I guess managers would count.
Yes, managers, valets. I guess if you want to use that antiquated term. Yeah, anyone who barely wrestles or doesn't wrestle but is involved. So nominees.
Oh, honorable mention. We didn't put him here for Tully Blanchard for losing his own faction. That didn't last that long.
Yes.
But so we have Julia Hart of House of Black, Sam Roberts from whatever he does on the pre-shows. I don't even know. The entirety of the bump, just everyone who's regularly
I don't mind the girl.
Kayla Braxton.
Yeah,
I think she did stuff before the bump, but now she's on the bump, so it sucks.
She's kind of cool.
And Satnam Singh, he doesn't wrestle most of the time, so I feel like that warrants.
Right. So
and he's really bad.
I'll go first this time. So I don't really watch WWE pre-shows anymore since they've gone completely to no matches now.
The last match I remember being on a pre-show was day one, so at least it's been like only a year-ish. So but it feels like it's been a long time.
And part of the reason I don't like watching them is because of Sam Roberts, but I can't give him this award because I really don't see him. I avoid him basically, and I don't really watch the bump other when it's because you leave the WWE network all the time. So when I turn on the TV, sometimes it's there. So
I hate the bump.
By the process of elimination, because Satnam Singh doesn't really bother me, I have to give this to Julia Hart here. Not entirely her fault. The House of Black seemed to be like adrift at best in WWE or AEW. Sorry, like I don't really know what they're doing at any point. It seems like just when they're about to sort of heat them up and do something, they disappear again for a long time. Right? She doesn't seem to wrestle. She doesn't really seem to add anything to that faction. She doesn't really seem to fit in with that faction. Right? So. She's super young still, so maybe she'll turn into a useful performer. But for now, I just think it's a bad fit in her minor role. So I don't strongly dislike her, but again, this category was tough. But I don't think she adds anything, so Julia Hart gets it for me. And I wonder what's getting it for you.
I don't think she's bad enough though to like. Cause I don't like her either, but she's just so like non-existent to me.
Right.
But I'm gonna go with the bump. Just
I thought
everyone
you
there.
might.
I hate them so much because I hate the whole show. So this is more of a critique on the show. But
it's
everyone
certainly
there
not
is so
aimed
bad
at us.
too.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it the most out of anything they do on the network because I know you got to fill the network with programming, but it's just like it's abysmal every time. Like, I mean, I don't love the This Is Awesome thing with the Greg Miller dude, but that's I don't know. There's some content there because I do like seeing like the stuff.
And the bump
that's all right.
Are they in character and stuff when they're on? For the most part, right? Like they're not.
That's what I hate about it. It's like it's trying to be like this outside thing, right? Like that they might have done like the mid 2000s because I know they used to do that, but it's like
feels like
it's
80s,
stuck
90s.
In this weird limbo between real life and kayfabe because it's trying to be like this outside thing, like as if you had like a talk show, like let's say like you're on the channel after Raw and you're talking about it, but like it's
right,
but like it's clearly still stuck in kayfabe somewhat, right? But they're trying to be
which
like this cool thing that's like right, which makes it so painfully cringy every time I watch it for even a minute. Like I try to watch, I hate it. I hate everything, and like it's so annoying watching especially the people on there interact like that. Ryan Popola, I think Matt Camp is the one dude. and then Braxton, and they always have like they do like the games and they are stupid like especially when they're like related to like say Royal Rumble time.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird. The wrestlers look dumb on there too, like because they're like they act weird too, right? Because it's just kind of a byproduct of that. And then sometimes they have guests via video call, which like I watched the one where they have Braun Strowman. It looked like crap. Like it was just so bad. And I just hate every one of the people there. It just makes everyone look bad. So
they
it's
all
horrible.
get it from you.
Every single person on the bump ever.
Nice. Next category is biggest regression. So the person that we thought took the biggest step back this year. Either could be whatever criteria you use for it, right? So nominees while you're drinking hot chocolate.
Ronda Rousey, Sammy Guevara, Britt Baker, and Wardlow.
Yeah, just to sort of explain some of them. Like I thought Guevara was kind of looking good and had a lot of potential, and then just got into Jazz or whatever else and stuck in a feud that took months and months and months and didn't really accomplish a lot. Britt Baker just went from the face of the women's division, right, and just being awesome. Not that she's still not good or still doesn't have a presence, but just like the category is a regression from where she was.
Was like a high for her.
And same with Wardlow, right? By the end of the year, he was kind of after a huge storyline with MJF was just kind of gone and forgotten for a little bit.
Right, to the point where I would rather Allen or Joe have the title.
And then Rousey,
sucks.
Yeah, so go ahead. You're first for this
easy pick is Rousey. Like, I didn't care a ton when she came back. But like I was kind of doing because like she really came into her own at the end of her first one. Because I was really not a fan at the first time.
Yeah, I agree.
But like you kind of had to be eventually, right? Like I did respect like she was pretty good.
Yep.
For the lack of experience she had, I was hoping she would freshen up the scene a lot because she is unique, right? So it's like I think her and Baszler are really unique in the division, right? But boy, was I wrong. Her feud with Charlotte was lame, and I'm sure that'll come up again. She didn't even win the title of Mania. She won the Rumble, and she didn't even win the title of Mania.
Yeah,
which that's fine because sometimes they don't win the title, and that's fine, right? Like he won the Rumble, he didn't win the title, but like she won it at WrestleMania Backlash, the pay-per-view after. You couldn't like chuck it on Mania, and it was an I Quit match. You couldn't chuck that on Mania, like
too busy doing comedy matches,
right? Like her feud with Liv Morgan was abysmal too. Like the matches were gross too. I don't feel like anything Rousey
those were bad
was
matches.
anything of note. There wasn't anything she did that was a note that I liked. Her matches were not good. None of them on par or better than her first run. Her match with Shotzi was really bad too, just as bad as Morgan, if not worse. She was really boring all the time. Anything I saw from her, completely boring as a character. She's been far diminished as a star attraction for them, I think.
Yes.
Too prominent on TV for how good she has been this past year. I was even a little concerned she made drag down Baszler by association, which is odd to say because I thought that would be a really cool, like, on paper, that's a really cool team. But I think that was 2019 and not 2022. She was not good this year, nowhere near the level of her first one. Just nothing was good, and like, I mean, I wish I was more upset when she lost the title to Flair, and I still was, because why did that happen? But I mean, at least Charlotte didn't end a good run.
True. Yeah, for me, it had to be Rousey as well. I was never really a fan of her. There was a time where I had to acknowledge that, like, considering how long she'd been wrestling, she was doing a pretty decent job. And honestly, she was getting a really strong crowd reaction, right? And she seems to have just gotten worse in the ring and worse like everything. It's like she doesn't really care as much. I don't know what it is. So she returns and they put her immediately at the top of the card where these like deficiencies were glaringly obvious, right? The match quality was way down. Character work was not connecting with the crowd like it was. Yet, like, she's getting ton of time on shows and on PLEs. So I think, and as time passes, her mainstream appeal, her appeal beyond the world of wrestling lessens and lessens, right? She's no longer an active MMA star. It's like kind of people either know her as a WWE person or not at all. And then sort of her value to them is really gone because they love that mainstream appeal, right? Which I don't really think she has anymore. So she won this one pretty easily.
This year more than ever, I stand by my opinion. Shayna Baszler is far better.
Because Guevara puts on good matches. He's just underused.
Guevara had some like good stuff this year. It's just he was, I don't know.
I was expecting him to step forward, and he stepped back.
The turn with Conti should have been the step forward, and I feel like it could have been. But then they had the weird heel versus heel thing with Men of the Year and Top Team,
right?
And then him and Scorp started hot potatoing the TNT title a couple times, which didn't really do much for them. or
we could have thrown Lambert in for
didn't do
non-wrestling
that much
performer.
for any of them. So
Hey,
Hmm?
we could have thrown Lambert in for non-wrestling performer.
Oh,
Now that you just said that,
damn, missed opportunity.
and not that there's times where I've liked him, but not in that storyline. Anyways, our next category is for worst feud of the year.
Next, all right. So we have Gacy and Breaker, Jazz and Blackpool, which was the
Oh
entire
my
year.
goodness, yep.
Owens and Ezekiel, Honor No More versus Impact, Sting and Darby versus Lethal and Jared, Charlotte and Rousey. Pat McAfee and Bum-ass Corbin, as Pat McAfee would say.
Right.
And Liv Morgan and Rousey. So Rousey's on here twice.
Is it my turn?
Yep.
So I sort of eliminate the main roster WWE because I'm not watching their weekly TV to get the full effect of how bad these things are. But one show that I do watch every week and review, and I don't even mind either performer in separate areas, but the feud between Braun Breaker and Joe Gacy killed me. It was long, boring, devoid of any possibility that Gacy would ever win. Remember they kidnapped Rick Steiner, they stole the Hall of Fame ring, and then just all the cryptic, like, kind of Wyatt-style promos by Gacy, and it just went on and on and on, knowing that Braun was never at risk to lose ever to this guy. And it was just week after week of ridiculousness. So for me, that was pretty easily. Although I did also honorable mention for me would be, I was going to say Honor No More Impact Wrestling because that was, but Blackpool Combat Club. At least there was some decent matches there. So Honor No More Impact
Anarchy
was
in the
also
Arena
rough.
was dope.
Yep, but Breaker and Gacy, that was awful. They win for me.
So I was between two picks, and given the last category, it'll be no surprise that both my top contenders have Rousey as half of the feud. But honorable mention to Sting and Jarrett thing, because why was that still a thing in any capacity? And also Pat McAfee Corbin, because I don't like Pat McAfee anymore. But I was between Rousey and Flair or Rousey and Liv Morgan. And I went with the latter. Sure, I really didn't care about Flair versus Rousey, even though it came back to bite us at the end of the year. It was short-lived, and it was over in 2 matches, and the 2 matches didn't completely suck. Did I like them? God, no. But they were okay. The same cannot be said whatsoever for the Rousey-Morgan saga over the summer / kind of early fall, depending on how you look at it. Every time they were in the ring together, it sucked, and managed to do a huge disservice to both of them by the time they were done. And I wasn't a huge fan to begin with. Like, I never saw the hype in Liv Morgan. I still think she sucks. I don't think she's
overrated by many people.
She was clearly not a credible champion to me, and yes, very overrated. But this feud did her a further disservice, and it even killed her popularity. Like, I mean, say what you want. Like, I don't think she was great, but she was popular objectively.
Did Rousey dominate her in every match? I know she did in at least one. Yeah. I know one was really short.
And one of them was a cash-in.
Right.
And the SummerSlam one was pretty short too. And there's the Extreme Rules ones that you didn't like.
Yes. But I don't like much on their PLEs lately.
The choice to have her win Money in the Bank and title run is still baffling to me, but I'll admit, like, they didn't do her any favors in this feud. Like, I think she was that bad champion I kind of expected, but they could have tried at least, and they really did just horrible. And the SummerSlam defense was horrible. Like, she was just never the best champion, and she never should have had it, but Rousey really made this worse, especially that Extreme Rules match. Like, that whole thing, the whole feud is just brutal.
It's like they were trying to give Liv a chance, and then Rousey came along, and they're like, nope.
Like they tried the Liv Morgan experiment, but never actually tried it, because it's like they killed it from the start.
But didn't really replace it with anything better in Rousey either.
No.
Right? So
it was just like
bad all around.
Horrible, yes.
So next we're looking at worst storyline. So more than just a feud, right? It's like an entire story going through it, not just the series of matches, but the story surrounding anything else. So what do you... I noticed my first nominee there.
Anything involving the schism.
Yeah, anything with Gacy, Dyad, because at some point they weren't the schism, right? Now they are.
At some point they weren't even the Dyad.
Anything involving them, and it's funny because, like, as a wrestler, for wrestler, I like them. It's just this group is
I
bad.
also remember you were, like, optimistic about Gacy at the very beginning of 2.0.
I was.
Because and that was when he was pretty bad, too.
When he was doing the woke heel thing, I thought that was kind of interesting and see where he would go.
Now I don't even know what it is.
Now it's like Bray Wyatt light sort of thing. And I don't like Bray Wyatt full calories, so I don't like the light one either.
The Austin Theory Money in the Bank saga. We'll get there. Honor No More invading.
Quote, invade Impact Wrestling, yeah.
ROH joining AEW.
Yep.
and Kevin Owens Ezekiel's saga.
Yeah, that was kind of silly. I think it's you this time, isn't it? I just did mine.
Yes, it is. I think the worst storyline was more of a booking decision, but I'll have to go here since it kind of serves both purposes, and we only have this. Like, I think it's only in here, so I'm gonna go with the Austin Theory Money in the Bank thing because that was a huge waste of time and energy in every sense of the term. It served nothing at all. I know Cody didn't pan out, but they could have done anything else for Money in the Bank.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, he entered the match last minute after losing the U.S. title. In the same night, so then he won the briefcase, and when he won the briefcase, we were already off to a rocky start. Then they did like the greatest plan ever when someone holds Money in the Bank. You have him lose over and over and over because guess what? He has a guaranteed title shot, so he'll win eventually, right? But like, it's such a bad strategy every time. Then there are a few instances where he was about to cash in, but like he gets cut off before he technically cashes in, so it's like a fail, but he still has it. So like he get cut off by the bloodline of Brock Lesnar or whatever, like SummerSlam for instance. Those were really lame, and those further made him look stupid, right? And then you had the tease of an NXT cash-in, which was kind of a neat idea. I remember kind of liking that possibility.
Yeah, that wouldn't have a problem with.
I like the possibility, but from another view, that's kind of lame. Like if you have to go to cash into NXT, that's like, you know. Then that brings us to the real cash-in itself. So take yourselves back to this night. I'm gonna relive this atrocity. Rollins just won the U.S. title from Lashley under nefarious circumstances like a couple weeks ago. So Lashley understandably won a rematch after. So I think it was like a couple weeks ago. Then Lashley just battered him a bunch, but with no match. So that already doesn't make sense. Just beat him up just for payback, I guess. Then Theory comes in to cash in on a mid-card title, which is 100% not how this works. And I know they say that because I remember
you were so mad about it.
Every Money in the Bank match they ever introduced, it's like saying in the Royal Rumble, both of you have to touch the floor. It's Money in the Bank's for a world title match, and that's how it's always been. That's how it is.
Guess not.
But Rollins just got demolished. You may think, oh, it's okay. Theory's gonna at least get an easy win. It's fine. First of all, he couldn't put away Rollins despite him being already banged up. Then Lashley took out the ref, beat the crap out of Theory on the outside. Then he almost got counted out, which is pretty bad. Then he got stomped, so he lost a cash-in on a mid-card title on a wounded champion, which was one of the stupidest decisions all year because there were so many ways to get the case off, but like that was the worst possible way they could have done it. So that's the dumbest thing I've seen all year.
It feels like they just hit the escape hatch on him,
like
right?
In the worst way possible. There's so many other ways you could do it. That's the thing.
Did it coincide with Vince being gone?
This is like a little while after Vince was gone, like a few months. Like he had the briefcase for a decent bit still.
Yeah. So they went with all their tropes. The guy losing constantly and almost cash-ins. They went for it all in that storyline, and you did not enjoy it. Mm-hmm. For me, the worst I thought this year was just because it kept going and going, and I didn't really think anything interesting ever came from it, and that was Honor No More invading Impact. So
I thought that was your favorite.
At the risk of being rude, it's a group of like D-list performers from a dead company, right? And trying to be presented like they matter somehow,
hey,
or like
let's be nice. It's D-list performers and Matt Taven,
and and that somehow them showing up in Impact affects anybody, right? So, and it was just standard group tag matches against different combinations of Impact roster who weren't involved in anything else. And Honor No More seemed to lose more than they won, if I remember correctly. They just didn't look impressive, right? And you've got Matt Taven and PCO, among others, are not people that I want to see on TV every week. And it really, really was a weak attempt at getting this group on TV and getting them some sort of attention. It just didn't work.
But they were tag team champions.
It did not work at all for me. Next we have, what does that say? Least interesting wrestling story in real life. So outside of actual wrestling.
Like a news story kind of
right.
deal.
So nominees.
Ric Flair's retirement.
Yeah.
Supposedly. The Ring of Honor TV service, which I think they're actually going to start.
Yes,
so
but
I guess
it
it kind of counts.
Talking about it forever though, and it wasn't what anyone
wanted.
At
the time, in the then context, I think that's fair.
And it wasn't what people wanted, right?
No.
We wanted a TV contract, not something we have to pay for to see something that we have no idea what it's going to look like, right?
And then Karrion Kross returns to WWE. Also, I think it's
that's an FNS favorite. Just Karrion Kross returning is not of interest to either of us.
I think it's shooting in Universal Studios or whatever, where they do dark sometimes.
Oh yeah,
ROH is not
nice.
Karrion Kross. I mean, he was doing a movie or something, wasn't he? Or he was doing something. Remember before he came back?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
He was in Control Your Narrative, right? So he's a weirdo.
Right, probably. For me, Ric Flair's retirement was the biggest non-story of the year. Not only has Rick been demonstrated to be a pretty horrible person?
That Dark Side of the Ring thing was last year, right?
Yeah, last year or tail end of, I don't know, the next
I want
one.
to say at least early in the year.
But he doesn't deserve much attention, and I have very little
Which
faith.
is all that show was, right?
Yeah.
The last match.
There were some good matches on that show, though, but not that one, obviously. And I little faith that it's his last match. He almost right after it was talking about going to do
even
another
though
one.
it should be like,
Oh,
absolutely.
it should be. And then I'm just ready for him to go away, right, and drop off the wrestling radar altogether. But it seems like enough time has passed since all of the stuff on the Flight from Hell came out, and it's kind of like, oh, we're back to sort of bringing him back a little bit. So
the status quo is not changed.
that storyline just had no interest for me. I did cherry pick a couple matches from the show, but yeah, that was my winner here.
I'm gonna have to agree with that. Like, who cares? It's happened like 5 times.
Right.
It's wrestling's ultimate boy who cried wolf. It was made even worse this year by the fact that we had a whole show around it, so you really get the attention on it, and you culminate with like a really bad match. Like that could be in the worst match of the year.
Really bad, yeah.
Like, it's just like he's bad. It was so bad, and I couldn't have cared less when he retired again. But then he might come back. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Like, doesn't make sense. Honorable mention to Karrion Kross because he sucks.
It's true, he does.
Real bad.
Next category, a fun one, I think, is worst on the mic.
Zion Quinn, Von Wagner, AJ Galante, Dominic Mysterio, Thunder Rosa. Yeah, she was pretty bad. And Schism.
Largely because of what is written for them. They just don't really say anything. And AJ Galante, I almost forgot because he was only on it for a few weeks.
I almost forgot. I kind of remember, but I still
terrible. You're first this time, so go ahead.
Oh, me. So honorable mentions to Dom and Rosa because in that one Usos promo against the Judgment Day, which I think that counts as this year, but I'll still mention it because it's related to Dominic. Like, the Usos were awesome, and then Dom's he sucks. He's so bad, especially
I don't mind him right now.
Well, even just the way he's just so unnatural right now. It was kind of like Logan Paul's face promos. Honorable mention to Logan Paul's face promos. Also, most of the last year though, he was still babyface Dom.
Right.
At least like over half of the year,
true.
right? So
that
has to be a factor as well. Like, I still don't think he's that great on the mic in the Judgment Day. And this is much better Dom, but still Dom no good. And also to Rosa, because her promos were pretty bad most of the time, and she was champion.
She was disappointing as champion.
You gotta factor that in.
Yep.
But I gotta pick Von Wagner. He's like Jack Swagger with half the charisma, which is not good.
You're not at a great starting point.
No, you're actually really bad, and just as much of a lisp, which is not his fault, but that's gonna be factoring here when it's really annoying. He's really awful in the ring and after the mic. See wrestling ability. Charisma black hole, as they say. Speech impediment isn't his fault, like I said, but it does make things worse. Like, that's not doing him favors, let's just say.
Yep.
I still don't know what his gimmick is, and he's so bad at everything. No wonder they had to stick Robert Stone on him, and even still, you got to hear Von Wagner be Von Wagner.
At least they're turning it into his story right now that even Robert Stone is basically like, you have no personality, you make no connection to anyone in the world. You need to. So it's so bad that they have acknowledged it and are turning it into a storyline, it feels like. And yeah, he doesn't say much, but when he does, it's incredibly awkward, and that is Von Wagner. So he spent a good chunk of 2022 getting far too much attention in NXT. He's really big. His matches are pretty bland, and his promos are pretty much cringe-inducing, even though he only gets a couple lines generally each one. I think he's improved in the ring lately. Like, he's had a couple matches I haven't strongly disliked, but still, whenever he speaks, it is awful. And he also seems like they've moved him a bit to the back burner. Like, they thought he would improve quicker than he has, maybe in all areas, not just in the ring. So makes sense to me that they've sort of cooled to him a little bit. His promos are brutal, and he really doesn't have any character at all. All right, next category is worst character. This one was really easy for me. Who are our nominees?
Scripps, Axiom, Wendy Chu, Maximum Male Models, and Butch.
That's a really strong list of nominees, I have to say, right?
It's all very fair.
Because a lot of them, 60% of them are from NXT, with Wendy Chu, right? With her wearing pajamas and bringing pillows and half of her moveset is like some sort of nod to her napping or sleeping, and
which is just a stupid gimmick. That's it.
Axiom drives me crazy too because he's so amazing in the ring, but he's saddled with this mathematician superhero in a mask gimmick, which is ridiculous. But they both pale in comparison to my runaway winner in this, even though it was very late in the year, right? And very few appearances. That's how ridiculous this was. So Script easily wins this for me. The vignettes ahead of his debut didn't make much sense, right? Like, he's this breaking into the place and vandalizing and graffitiing and whatnot.
We should have put him in Retribution.
And once he debuted, it even made less sense, right? That ring gear was embarrassing. It's one of the worst masks I've ever seen.
It's one of the worst ring gears,
Right.
the whole piece. And then it made me laugh even harder when I realized it was Reggie.
And even when he does the little gesture, like the pen stroke that he's doing,
it looks so lame.
It's so bad. I put, because I'd started this a long time ago, they need to pull the plug on this character ASAP, and I don't think he's appeared on NXT TV since, right? He was on maybe
Level Up
3 or 4 times, and it's just been awful. Like, it's so bad that it's one of those things where I need to know who pitched this idea and who was like, yes, this is what we should do. It's baffling to me that anybody thought of this and that some other people were like supportive of the idea.
And someone designed that and actually made it.
And so easily, yeah, it looked like they went to like a party store. They changed his outfit a little bit, I think, the second time he came out. But it looked like they went to a party store and bought one of those cheap costumes in a bag that you get that are really thin, crappy material. And then just a ridiculous mask. So easily one.
I still don't get what that mask was.
Easily one for me.
I really want to pick Scripps. I do. But he came too late in the year and he wasn't very prominent, so I'm going to pick Butch.
That's fair. I mean, partly because we love Pete Dunne so much, right?
Pete Dunne's my boy.
So this is frustrating.
The ridiculousness and stupidity of it did regress a little later in the year. So that's...
He became less of a pet and more of a human?
Yeah, which is a weird thing to say.
But true.
It's accurate.
Yeah.
But still, I can never forgive them for what they did to good old Peter Dunne. I never will. Dunne was one of the last favorites I had left in NXT, even though it sucked. He was still there. Bruiserweight was just peak wrestling.
So easy for him and so good,
and
right?
he's effortlessly cool. Like, if you brought that to the main roster, that would be cool. If you had Pete Dunne, not Butch, Pete Dunne beat Gunther, that would be cool to me, okay? Just as he was good on the mic, too. Like, later in his NXT run, like 2021, he was getting good on the mic. Like, I liked him. And
he was
in phenomenal shape,
a lot
too.
Of his
like,
promos.
He's a cool-looking dude.
Yep.
He got dropped on the main roster, which is bad enough in the Vince McMahon era. But as Butch, not as Pete Dunne, where he could still get screwed, as Butch. Like, Sheamus and Ridge Holland's crazed attack dog, like this brawl obsessed dog, he would just keep attacking the New Day, beating him up. Like, it was so weird. He was like a weird rabid pet, like
he was,
and they could barely control him, and like he had little actual personality. And remember, like, he used to wear those weird tight pants and like a white tank top and suspenders, which is just brutal. Like, I hate it. He has been given his Pete Dunne gear back, albeit with the stupid Brawling Brutes logos, which doesn't make it that great. But he's still Butch, and the elements are kind of visible now.
Right.
But he's still too much of that mindless brawler and lacks any of the intelligence or personality as a bruiserweight. Like, he does kind of wrestle a little more like Pete Dunne. He dresses more like Pete Dunne in the matches, I still think, in promos. He's going along with their shtick where he's like chain like fight night and like banger after, like, he's like he has very little personality of his own. Like, he's just, you could replace him with any other British dude on the roster and it would be pretty much the same, because like he has nothing to him. It was a crap game to begin with, and since this, even though it's slight improvements, it's still bad, 'cause he's just like, he's nothing.
He's so good that he shouldn't be the third part of any group.
No,
I don't think, right?
I think he's the least interesting of the group, and
right. And it should never be the case.
That's with Ridge Holland, and I don't like Ridge Holland.
Right.
It's Pete Dunne, man. Like,
I agree.
It's ridiculous.
So next category, we're going to worst weekly TV show, which wasn't super easy, I found, this year. No. So I think we don't have the same one. So you go ahead and go first. Nominees, I guess.
Rampage, NXT 2.0, and Impact.
Right, which you watch some of each of those if you're around, sort of thing. I watch all of NXT and all of Impact, and sometimes Rampage when something interests me. So what was your choice?
It's easy. It's NXT 2.0. It was just abysmal. I haven't watched a full show in over a year, and I don't feel ashamed at all.
It was awful.
Anytime I watch bits of it, or when it was on, like when you're watching our clips that's on Instagram, they're either bad, cringy, stupid, or mediocre at best. It's hard for stars like Melo to rise above the oppression that was the crap hole of 2.0, and he did, but still. Even when they changed it to what it is today, it still really hasn't changed much, other than aesthetic, and some matches are better.
And they're getting some more established talent.
It still produces a lot of stuff I've seen all week. Some of the talents are horrible, like they're brought on the TV too soon.
Yes.
The majority of them can't act. The writing is horrible, like you said, for the stuff like the Schism. I don't even know what that is. And they're ruining good people like A-Kid, not a lot of personality, but they ruined him.
Yeah.
They ruined Grizzled Young Veterans, who were awesome.
Yeah.
I think JD McDonough is a fair exception. He's still pretty solid.
He is.
But like they ruined so many people. It's just like, and honestly, it seems like I feel bad for Roxotter. That's a bad start for her. Like Von Wagner's just brutal. Like I don't know. And like Daba Kato, why is he back there?
I know.
Odd choices like bringing back New Day and Dolph Ziggler.
Right.
It's so bad. Like
it's
not
as bad as 2.0, but I get what you're saying.
Just NXT in general.
So NXT 2.0,
especially its fall from grace, that has to be noted again.
If they kept 2.0, it would have for sure won for me. There's no way around that. But it's recovered somewhat, and there's usually a match or two that I enjoy on the show. For me, and I feel a little bad choosing this because we don't watch it a ton, but that's part of the problem. It's Rampage wins for me. There's been very few weeks where we felt the need to check it out because we love AEW. It's easily my favorite show every week, easily. Yet, for whatever reason, partly due to the time period it's on.
Yeah, that's
time slot.
I'd be more bothered to check it out if it was easy.
But I feel like matches are like randomly set up and they're not very often super interesting. There's once I would say every like 3 weeks or so where we're like, yeah, we should check it out. But
for me, like it's like Rampage had some really good gems in there. Like you had Cole and Page in the
it's been
Texas
a while.
Death Match.
Yeah.
Like I can't think. I know there has been some though. That doesn't help my point. But like, and to me, it's like I don't really watch Rampage or NXT. But to me, Rampage is more of a byproduct of the time slot, and be like it's not super interesting. But it's not that it's bad. It's like NXT. I'm deliberately not watching it.
Rampage, I think too. It's because my expectations, right? I don't expect a ton from NXT. I don't expect a ton from Impact. But Dynamite's an awesome show, and we always talk about they have too many people on the roster. They should be using this hour of TV to do something, whether it's more women's content or whatever. And I just feel like they're not. And then Tony Khan keeps saying, I'm going to, treat it really seriously and make Rampage a show to watch. And then it kind of is for a couple weeks, and then they forget all about it again. So it really feels like an afterthought when they could really use more time to develop and get more people involved, right? So I think it's partly the expectations I have that they're falling well short of that gets the award for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next category is a lot of competition in this one from WWE, and that's worst pay-per-view / PLE, I guess we should say.
Let's be honest, it's PLE. None of the AEW pay-per-views are making in there.
Not
like, all
even
those
close.
are good. So,
and honestly, the ones in Impact, again, I don't have super high expectations, and they're usually a couple matches I enjoy.
They're also not like super major either.
No, they're not. And more WWE pay-per-views or PLEs I have disliked top to bottom almost, right? Like sometimes I'm struggling to find a match or two that I thought was pretty good. There's a lot of us being very just kind of meh about WWE.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the Impact ones, I feel like you at least had Bailey or Alexander in there.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, we'll review it probably on Saturday. I thought Elimination Chamber was one of the better pay-per-views I've seen, or PLEs I've seen in a while from main roster WWE, right? So
you got to throw in the 4 main roster.
Right. So what are our nominees for this?
WrestleMania.
Both days. Pick one, to be honest.
Both of them.
Yeah.
No,
throw them together.
As a whole,
yes.
as an experience.
Yes, okay.
Royal Rumble.
Yeah, awful.
Which pains me to say. Elimination Chamber, which was Saudi Chamber last
year. So for this,
year.
because if you're a regular listener, you know my memory, I actually went and pulled up all my notes on these to be like, oh yeah, that was really bad.
We didn't even watch Saudi Chamber, but I've heard really bad things about it anyway,
right.
So that totally makes sense. Like I watched like the Cultaholic ranking. That was their worst of the year.
Yeah.
But they were also people who like the
Mania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Extreme Rules, which was, to be fair, it was actually extreme.
Mm-hmm. So I guess it's my turn to go first. And this one was easy for me because even though I said I had to go and look up some of these pay-per-views, I did not have to look up WrestleMania, and that's what wins for me. So many of my worst match nominees are going to come from those 2 days. And this is supposed to be the biggest and best show of the year, right? You know me, I do not use this word very often. I pretty much hated WrestleMania this year. With its 2 nights, like just too many celebrities in matches. I guess at the end of the day, the problem is WrestleMania is not for us, right? Like it's not for hardcore wrestling fans they're trying to get the marginal fans in. They're trying to get the people who don't generally watch wrestling. And that's why there's just too many celebrities in matches, too many retired performers in matches. And really over those 2 days, there was only a couple of good matches. I think maybe I liked one each night. and really, really disliked a lot of them. This was not a hard choice for me. Royal Rumble was really bad as well, I thought. And that's too bad because that's two of their biggest pay-per-views of the year, right? But
And also Rumble is something I always look forward to.
Right.
Even like I feel like WrestleMania I could look forward to, but this was the year honestly I didn't. But Royal Rumble is like an exception to me. I always look forward to that.
every year that passes, I'm looking less and less forward to Mania. Like it's just kind of like, yeah, we'll watch it,
This
but
was the first year
there's
I
no
was just
excitement
like,
for me.
no.
Yeah, it was awful. Both nights, any night, all the nights. WrestleMania wins easily for me.
But
Especially when you consider this is the Super Bowl of wrestling, and it was trash.
and let's not forget it was the most stupendous one
Absolutely,
in
super
history.
stupendous.
So that can only mean this year has to be worse. That was the most stupendous one. Well, it might not be worse, but it'll at least be less stupendous.
Well, it could be even more stupendous, and then it becomes the most stupendous.
How do you be more stupendous than that? Though
Be
we had
tough.
the biggest WrestleMania match of all time.
I feel like you might agree with me on this one.
That might be possible.
Well, go ahead. You haven't said yours yet.
Honorable mention the Rumble for ruining one of the only things I look forward to in the year, especially from them.
Yep.
I think it's that Money in the Bank. That's it. But that redeemed himself in the slightest because that opener was one of my favorite things of the year.
That's true. We love that match.
I love that. That was probably that might be my favorite thing they did all year. And like that, the Rumble this year was similar because like they had the ending.
Right, which was
But-
fantastic.
But the
The
Rumbles,
post-match stuff.
the
yeah.
Rumbles this year were somewhat redeeming because
They're okay,
the
yeah.
one this year was okay. The Rumble last year was horrible. Anywho, the worst one has to go to WrestleMania 30 as a whole, the whole shebang.
Yep.
More matches, more time to wow you, and it falls short the most. 37 in 2021 had a lot more things to love. I think this year they're far and few between. You had the awful Jackass match. Make no mistake, that was not entertaining.
It'll come up
It
later.
wasn't.
I promise.
All right, and I don't care what people say. That was probably Sami Zayn's low point of the year because he was on fire this year.
He enjoyed doing it.
And
but
this was not. If you enjoy doing it, sure, but like,
he's also a company guy, so I don't know.
yeah, I don't
Right? Who knows?
know. Pat McAfee versus Theory was lame, and then they made the baffling decision of Steve Austin main event the first night with a lame segment and an equally lame match had me on the brink of slumber. I was clinging on to consciousness in that match.
You were in and out of consciousness for sure.
And then the even more baffling decision to have Vince McMahon wrestle.
Yep.
In 2022.
Take a great
Then
center.
the injury to Boogs killed the first night opener, if you remember.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The Brutes squashed New Day in like less than a minute. What? The absence of both mid-card titles. They didn't even put the Andre Battle Royal on the pre-show.
Right.
The main event of the supposed biggest main of all time underwhelmed, to be polite.
Mm-hmm.
The only good things were the Raw Women's title match.
I like that. Yes.
And the return of Cody and the match with Rollins, which was pretty good. And I almost forgot about those because the show was so bad. Like never have I been less excited for Mania. It was really bad.
It was.
The best thing about it was probably the stage, and even then, like.
And I think a lot of people liked it, right? But again, I don't know
Just
what
made me feel like the only sober person at a drunk party.
my expectations, I guess, are different. But
Yeah,
it wasn't good.
It was real bad, man.
So now we're going to go to a big one here, which is worst promotion of the year. So who are our nominees for that?
NXT, WWE, and Impact Wrestling. I guess you could just go WWE, but
Yeah, but we separated a little bit, right? NXT is kind of its own thing, although there's more and more main roster stuff bleeding into it. And I think it's your turn to go first. No surprise here.
Yeah, I went with NXT because I think I said enough bad things about 2.0. It's undoubtedly the worst thing going on in wrestling. They changed it not much to change at all. Raw and SmackDown may not be great, but I think 2.0 sunk NXT far below either of them. It's yet to recover. But honorable mention on the main roster because.
Yep, I agree. For me, it's maybe controversial for some, but no promotion offers me less entertaining content than WWE. Outside of like Bloodline stuff, probably. NXT pay-per-views are, for me, consistently more entertaining, partly because they're significantly shorter. They come in around 3 hours instead of feeling the need to push between 4 and 5. And my expectations, honestly, for Impact are pretty low, and they regularly meet or exceed them. But WWE, they're the largest wrestling company in the world with virtually unlimited resources. Yet when I try to watch their programming, and I do tune in every now and then, it's being recorded every week here. So sometimes when I'm bored, I'll flip it on, and I struggle to get through more than like 20 minutes to half an hour, right? There's always something that comes up that's just not interesting. And even when watching their PLEs now, very few of their matches are what I would say are for me.
I'm almost positive we didn't even watch the Raw after Mania this year.
Probably, and that used to be something I would like.
That was usually
Appointment
our
viewing.
check-in point.
Right. So we often just watching the PLEs especially, like, come away asking ourselves if WWE style is just not for us, right? Like, if this is just a brand of wrestling that is not for us. But we keep trying, and we will keep trying in 2023.
I think that's been answered long ago, but that doesn't stop me from continuing to ask.
Right. Next category is our worst match of the year. Lots of nominees here, so go ahead, run those down.
No shortage of options, absolutely. The Anything Goes match, the Jackass match, y'all know the drill. Owens and Austin from Mania Night 1, aka the Go to Sleep match.
Right.
McMahon and Pat McAfee. That's just weird. Indy Hartwell, Lash Legend to Electra Lopez, Liv Morgan, Ronda Rousey, Extreme Rules, but honestly, you could pick any of them.
And you missed the Money in the Bank women's match there. Is in there.
Oh,
as well.
women's my mistake.
I thought that, considering I love those matches, I was not. Very disappointed.
I'd say like I have other honorable mentions from the nominee list, but honorable mention to like the Rumble match, the men's Rumble this year was particularly abysmal. I feel like there was something else that's really bad too.
Oh, I'm sure there was.
I can't think of it right now, but
so I think it's me this time.
I think so.
So WrestleMania gave me several options here, and they were all the front runners for me, just again because of the attention it gets. Like, yes, Lash Legend had a few awful matches, but she's new. She's on NXT. She's barely on NXT. They've also backburnered her at this point. But the match that annoyed me the most had to easily be Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville, so it wins. As soon as I saw Knoxville come out in that ring gear and all of the props in the ring looking like it was a Double Dare or Nickelodeon or
giant
something.
Giant hand, mousetrap table, giant mousetrap.
And the mousetrap malfunctioned, I think, too, right? I hated every moment of this match. I felt awful for Sami Zayn, who is a gigantic talent, as we see now, right? Even though he did say he loved doing the match, so good for him. But I thought this was absolutely awful.
That's like saying Butch likes being, or Pete Dunne likes being Butch. I don't care. I don't like it.
I know people like this match, but I can't remember a bigger waste of my time on a major pay-per-view PLE in recent history. Like, I just groaned, and this match was just awful. It's just not what I want. I'm not a big comedy guy in wrestling, and this was like an overdose of it for sure.
So I think this category really makes it obvious why WrestleMania was the worst show of the year.
It definitely
three
does.
matches from one show here, right? And if you really, I think WrestleMania Night 2 is clearly the worst choice because you have two matches from there.
Right.
And honestly, I'd go honorable mention to Pat McAfee's other matches. Maybe not the Theory one because I don't really remember it because who cares? But the Corbin one was really bad.
Yeah.
But honorable mentions mainly to the Jackass match, like you said, for being balls out stupid. That was just, I hate it. And to Austin versus Owens for literally, I almost fell asleep. I cannot stress it, and I don't do that. When I watch stuff, I don't fall asleep. Other than now, like when I'm up really late watching like an episode of Practical Jokers, I fall asleep. But that's just like randomly. This one I was like, it wasn't crazy late. I was trying not to sleep. Like I was.
But I think part of the blame is too, like nothing on the show was giving you any energy.
The whole show really drained.
And so by the end, you're just like, oh my goodness. And this is terrible too.
Steve Austin main evented WrestleMania in 2022.
Right.
19 years after his last Mania match. Like this is like Edge winning the Rumble like 11 years after his first one times 1,000. But I'm gonna pick McAfee versus Vince because just that the sheer absurdity of that alone is just mind-boggling. It was pretty short, but it was easily the worst thing I had seen all year. It was horrible. Like Vince could barely do anything other than like half-ass flabby clotheslines. And do you remember the finish when he punted the football into McAfee's like stomach?
That's why I'm laughing because we actually share this document and we don't normally on our weekly shows, and I've forgotten that until I'm reading your notes, and that's why I was just laughing.
To win, like that was the finish. It was horrible beyond compare, and like it wasn't in the match, but I think it kind of contributes. Let's not forget his stunner.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that. Okay, I'll admit that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Oh,
but was it horrible?
We laughed and laughed and laughed.
I'd pay to see that for the first time
and
again.
And they only show it from one angle that makes it look less bad now. They'll never go back.
I don't even know if you could make it look less bad. It's
amazing.
So bad.
Yep.
That was easily the worst thing of the year. Vince McMahon wrestled this year. What the hell happened this year? And then he retired, and then what happened this year?
Crazy.
You know, like.
Next thing, getting into some of the individual and team awards, let's talk about worst tag team of the year nominees.
Current AEW tag champs, the Guns.
Yeah, we
so
made
that's
this
funny.
list before their recent push, but
Before the FTR funeral too.
they're still on
so-
there because that's 2023, so it doesn't count.
It's true. Slight progression though, I will say.
Yep.
Since then, the current hit row sans Swerve.
Yes, not the Swerve one, the new one.
Yeah, they really that was. You could put that in worst comeback, but I don't even think the comeback was bad. It's just the run since then.
I've heard some people saying that it looks like they're kind of done with Hit Row and that they've sort of they're gonna be like jobbers at best kind of thing.
That makes sense, like a maximum male model level.
Yeah,
that makes sense to me because we also had the Top Dollar botch. That was
my, that was awesome.
Oh, next year we should do botch of the year.
Yeah, that would probably win for me.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
So I guess honorable award there is the botch of the year, but and just to me I'm just talking about this before I picked, but I just kind of wanted to talk about Heroes. It's really not the same without Swerve. That whole formation was really cool, and Swerve just really made that group to me. That was the any star power, because I feel like they're a solid mid-card team, but I feel like you need something else to elevate them as a worthwhile thing on TV, and that was Swerve to me, right? Because B-Fab is...
Well, it felt like he was like like a hip-hop star, and they were his entourage, and it was cool.
Yeah.
Because they would do their little vignettes in the studio and stuff, right?
I like that way better than Mogul Affiliates. I think if I could have Hit Row and AEW instead of Mogul Affiliates, I would definitely do that. Yep. And I love the theme too, and they would rap.
Even B-Fab was cool until she wrestled.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and then she was incredible.
That's the issue. So they're not good. Dyad, which pains me to say, because Grizzled Young Veterans were awesome.
I feel bad for them.
I love Grizzled Young Veterans, and when they came to NXT, that was cool too. But then
they could save Pete Dunne and them and put them together as a little faction on main roster, right? Just bring them back to their old. Let him be the leader and let them be heels.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I remember when they won the UK tag titles. Oh, I love James Drake.
They're good.
That was awesome, and now they suck.
And Gibson's so good at talking, and they've made him speak in the Dyad
like such an
language
idiot too, because. Yeah, he'll talk like that, and he shaved his beard, and he's got the cane eyes.
And his promos he would cut walking to the ring were some of my favorite things.
Yeah. Good Brothers, that figures.
Mm-hmm.
Briggs and Jensen, because NXT.
Yeah.
And Toxic Attraction.
Yeah. Who's first? I forget.
In any form.
You.
Me?
Yep. Pretty sure.
Yes, you're right. It's kind of hard to pick, because, there's a lot of bad ones here, but I don't think there's, a standout of the pack, which I feel like sometimes there is.
Oh, there is for me.
Oh, really? That's fair.
Yeah.
I think I'd have to take Briggs and Jensen, though. Their gimmick was really crap the whole time. Their tag offense is extremely limited basic. I hate their tag finisher. It's so horrible. It's just so basic.
And that signature where they slide out of the ring and just punch them.
Yeah, and their tag offense is the most basic, boring crap I've ever seen. Any promo I've seen is really bad, and that's part of the NXT writing, but also just I don't think they're very good. They had a crap nothing wrong with UK tag titles. That still baffles me. I don't like anything they did. I can't think of worse. Guns were more redeeming, especially recently.
Mm-hmm.
But Briggs and Jensen were the worst.
Yeah, they're improved their acting for me right now, but they're in a really brutal storyline with Kiana James and Fallon Henley. But so for me, they wrestled more than half of the year with Impact Wrestling before leaving, which means it was nice because I had to endure watching them a lot less because they were in a company I didn't watch anymore. But no surprise to anyone who listens to us. It's the Good Brothers. They win for me. Match quality has slipped. Gallows is just not very good anymore. He's lost a step. I don't really think he seems to care about anything other than high-profile matches. They're not interested in making anybody look any better. Their promos are self-indulgent. They're just shilling their own merchandise, especially in Impact, less so in WWE. And like I said, they're not looking to elevate anyone. They are looking to make themselves look good. I struggle to watch anything that these guys do. Carl Anderson sort of gets lumped in with Gallows. I don't have a huge issue with Anderson, but just as a tag team, they're not helping anybody, and I don't think they're good. So they infuriate me. Their theme, all of their actions, their promos, everything. It's the Good Brothers. All right. So now we are into Worst Female Wrestler of the Year. Lots of nominees here. So go ahead.
Lash Legend, Anna Jay, Jade Cargill, Shotzi Blackheart. Ronda Rousey, yup. Play, and Liv Morgan.
Play being Marina Shafir, yes. And then I had a note.
Duke dropped off the radar.
Yes, I had a note there that says there's plenty more in NXT and internet AEW, but they don't receive much time or attention, so I did not include them, right? Again, looking at people who actually get some time. So
Red Velvet kind of sucks.
This is me. So
wait. Oh, wait, no, Cargo's on there.
Yes, she is. For the spot she's been given and the amount of attention she gets, I went with Ronda Rousey again for this award. As we talked about previously, she seems to have regressed in the ring and just doesn't look like she cares. She's borderline unwatchable at this point for me, right? I have no interest in seeing her. I know I was never a huge fan, but I kind of understood what WWE saw in her and what they were going for in her first run, which was light years ahead of this one.
It used to make sense back in the day.
But now I'm not sure what she brings at all. So because she's really not good in the ring anymore, I don't know how that happened, and she's given a super mega high profile spot.
And the bad matches she gave us this year.
She wins for me.
Honorable mentions go to Lash Legend for just being all around horrible.
She's pretty bad.
Shotzi is still as bad as the day I vowed to always hate her. Anna Jay for that corner thigh of doom.
Right.
Just no. Liv Morgan for the overhype, and then also how bad her whole thing turned out, and Shafir for sucking just as bad as 2018 NXT.
She had some rough matches.
Actually, one more I'll mention to Jade Cargill, who I think a lot of people expected good things for, and I think reasonably so, and she's just really plateaued.
She would have been, because of the same sort of criteria as Rousey, she would be my second choice, right? Because she's a champion, she's undefeated, she's having this huge run, and
she had a title run the whole year, and you could be remiss for forgetting that.
And she's just okay in the ring. Like, every match feels the same. They're not getting it better.
It should have gone better.
Hopes.
Cause at last, or I guess 2021 now, or at the beginning of last year, like, I think it'd be surprising for her to be here, but it's really plateaued in the ring, on the mic.
And she's not brand new anymore, so we have to expect a little bit more, and I don't feel like we're getting it.
You kind of have to start thinking like that.
Yep.
But I'm going to have to go with Rousey as well. She's not good enough in any sense for how much she was on TV, like you said. I didn't like any of her matches, and they were so bad. It feels like her first one was a different former UFC star, and this one feels more like right. This feels more right if this run preceded the first one. You know what I mean? Because that one was great. This one feels like regression. This feels like the learning steps.
Yes.
Now it's after, so it is a huge regression. Gone were the electrifying first matches and the title wins. Gone were the hot feuds opposite Flair and Lynch. And in were the mediocre returns. A boring title win. Lukewarm or bad feuds with Flair, Morgan, and Shotzi, and a meh tag team with Shayna Baszler. Poor Shayna Baszler, may I add. Rousey gets to hear, no doubt. Like, she was just really bad this year.
Yep, she was. All right, so now let's move into Worst Male Wrestler of the Year. That is our final award this year, the big prize. Who are our nominees?
We have Omos.
Fair.
Shocker. Von Wagner, Zion Quinn, Luke Gallows, Sting, Karrion Kross. No shocker there. Dominic Mysterio, Baron Corbin, and Pat McAfee.
Yeah, Zion Quinn's kind of disappeared, but he had some really rough matches.
I still hate his finisher.
So I believe it is your turn to go first.
Honorable mentions go to Von Wagner for being... I hate him so much.
You're not a fan.
Dom Mysterio.
Also not a fan.
For being the son of Rey Mysterio and still sucking.
Right.
And Vince McMahon, despite he only had one match, that was still horrendous. So I came close to picking a few people, but I think I've landed on who I want. I was close to Cross because he's never been anything resembling good, but he was really like he wasn't, super prominent this year. Like,
yeah,
I feel like 2021 though, because he was NXT champion, he sucked hard.
Yep.
But this year, honestly, I didn't see him that much, and I want to pick him just to be mean, but we already did that kind of stuff.
Leave it to me then.
Pat McAfee was pretty bad, even if he only had a few matches. If we did worst celebrity or guest wrestler, he'd probably take it from me because Logan Paul,
people love him.
Hate him. Logan Paul, you can at least
he's good.
He did good. Like in the Roman match, like that was. He's objectively gifted in the ring, so that's
hate to say
fair.
It, but yes.
Oh yeah, and I hate that even more. But just you have to respect that a bit, right? And Dominic was bad, but I think he kind of turned around with the heel turn. We were waiting for that a while. Quinn Wagner, horrible, not that prominent. So I'm gonna pick Omos.
Nice.
They tried their hardest to push him this whole year, at least most of the year before even when Triple H took over. If you remember, AJ freaking Styles had to put him over, and that didn't work. They tried to do kind of a Shawn Michaels Diesel thing, I feel like, and
they did.
AJ Styles put him over, man, and it's still nothing. To so many pointless squash matches, to that boring feud with Lashley that stunk out the joint. A few times, to the absolute dud with Strowman,
yep.
To needlessly beating guys like Gargano who didn't need that loss, that was horrible, and even adding MVP to him did nothing at all. That
MVP's
elevated
good.
Lashley a lot, but that's because Lashley's actually talented.
Yes.
His offense is incredibly lame, basic, and slow even for a big guy. He's just as bad, if not worse, than the Great Khali. He's just as much of a charisma magnet. Nigeria prison match.
Right.
Anytime I see him in a match, I'm automatically uninterested. Like, most of his offense is like picking up someone really high because he's really, really tall. In case you didn't know.
He is really tall.
And just dropping them. Like, his finisher is the Punjabi plunge. Everything he did bored us all and sucked hard, made worse by how much you could clearly tell they were trying with him. Like, even when Triple H, even when I thought he was easing up on it, it clearly wasn't over. I've heard he might be in the redone Hurt business if they do that. I hope not, for the love of God.
Unless he's Satnam Singh and he just stands there
I don't even
want
him affiliated with that whatsoever. He's just horrible, worst hands down, because he had a solid presentation throughout the year, so that gets it for me. It's kind of a Rousey thing.
I really like your choice. I went different just to be different, but part of the issue with Omos too is not only is he awful on offense, but he's so big it limits everybody in the ring with him, right? What they can do to him is limited.
I think the best thing he was involved was when he got taken out of Money in the Bank and they all had to gang up on him because they put him through the thing.
So I'm choosing this based on just opportunities this guy gets, and seems to not do anything with them once he has them. So he has a great look. He had a great entrance and part of a duo that really, really looked great on camera, right? And then, as they say, the bell rings, and it's bland, and so it's Karrion Kross for me. I know he didn't get a ton of attention, but I think the plan was that he would, right? He's this large, intimidating-looking man who, for some reason, doesn't connect for me. I feel like for a lot of people in the ring, he's kind of slow. His offense lacks any real believable impact, right? Like, his strikes and things look really bad most of the time. Really not boring, I really find him boring. Just a large disconnect between his presentation, because his entrance in NXT was awesome, right? Like, that thing with Scarlett was fantastic.
He kind of does it, I think.
Yeah, and it's just his performance once he starts.
His presentation's a little better also now that he has hair.
He's not believable as what they're presenting him as, and he just bothers both of us, so that makes him my worst wrestler of the year. All right, so I think that's bringing us to the end. We got just about an hour. That's pretty good. Not bad. So apologize again for the delay on this, but, it's a busy time of year, and we got it out.
We did it, is the point.
We got it out before the end of February. We promised it was coming. It finally got here. So we appreciate you taking some time out to listen to this if you did. We'll definitely be back here on Saturday. I believe it is episode 136, where we'll quickly run down Elimination Chamber, AEW Dynamite, some high spots and rest holds from Impact and NXT probably, and SmackDown and Raw. So a lot of content on our weekly, what I call flagship show. If you haven't checked it out, please do. If you'd like to reach out, leave a comment to us, you can do that either emailing us at fnswrestling@gmail.com. You can leave a message on Instagram if Jack ever checks. FNS_wrestling_podcast is where we are on Instagram. And you can leave a comment on YouTube. We don't get many or any, but people listen. They don't leave a lot of comments. But if you do, I promise I will reply to you. So anyways, anything else to add before we go?
No.
No? We're going to watch Raw tonight?
Ha!
Nope.
We're going to review Elimination Chamber too.
Exactly. All right. So I guess that's going to wrap it up. We'll be back here next Saturday for 136. And until then, everybody, take care.